be Brooks, maybe it'll be Tiger, who knows, and kind of go from there. I do think Spieth is a little bit more interesting than you do. I think that, the guy's good enough, and he's proven that he's good enough that this awful stretch that he went through, he's bound to bounce back from it. So I think he's done it slow enough that you can't get on the train and get him at low enough ownership to take the risk quite yet, but he is one of the guys I considered up top.
All right, so let's move into the 9,000 range. Looks like we have 6 players here too. Man, I don't know if there's anybody here I'm overly excited about.
I think there's some good plays in this range. I'm looking at a couple of these guys as kind of pivots off of Cantlay since he's going to be so high owned. I've been hearing quite a bit of talk about Ricky. I think Ricky's always a little more high owned than he should be, but I like just shockingly enough, I like Justin Rose as a pivot off of Cantlay. I just think he's much more of a world class player than Cantlay is at this point in his career. I expect, with Cantlay's trajectory, he may get there, but he just won his second tour event a few weeks ago, and Justin Rose has won 4 or 5 times in the last couple of years. So, and he's won a U.S. Open before. He's got the game to do it. He doesn't have any significant glaring holes in his game. So, I definitely don't mind Rose as a pivot off of Cantlay. What's his ownership looking like this week from what you're seeing, Mark?
Looks like 10%.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely willing to take a nice chunk of Rose at that ownership. Ricky, I'll probably go a little bit overweight on Ricky, but not too crazy because he can be a little bit volatile. But he's contended in so many majors. He's back in his home state where he grew up. He's a California kid. Maybe the stars align this week and it all happens for him. Nobody would be shocked if it did, but
he did play better earlier in the year when they were on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's got one of the purest putting strokes in the game. It doesn't matter what green surface he's on. You're going to have to make, the reality is, at some point in at least a couple of your rounds, you're going to have to make those 6 to 10 foot par putts to save pars and keep your round going. So Ricky's the kind of guy you can definitely see doing that. He might be the best putter in the world. So he's definitely a guy I can't avoid this week altogether. Not really interested in Thomas coming off of his injury. I've been hearing a lot of talk about him. I think he's a guy who, if you don't know that he's coming off of injury and hasn't been playing well, he's a name that you're going to go $9,300 for Justin Thomas. Why is he down here? Why is he down with Rahm and below Spieth and Fowler and these guys? Well, he's just hasn't been playing all that well, and he's only played 2 events since his wrist injury. Had to withdraw a few weeks ago, and withdrew from the last major at the PGA. So I think I don't know, because of those things, I can't confidently load him up in my lineups. Although he's an intriguing turn to play. If I was playing like 20 lineups, I'd probably throw him in a few. But Rahm is just, I don't know. His game does not set up well for U.S. Opens, in my opinion. I do, however, I trash this guy a lot, but I like Jason Day a lot this week. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you're seeing his ownership looking like, but I think 9,100 is a good price. He's fantastic around the greens. He's a great putter. He's got a great course history here at Pebble. The last 5 years, he hasn't finished outside the top 11 at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. The last summit was here in 2010. He really wasn't the Jason Day as we know him now, as far as the U.S. Open, but he always plays well here. He likes the West Coast. He's won in California multiple times. I just think he's going to be a hard guy to ignore for me. I think I'm going to be loading up pretty heavily on Jason Day this week.
Yeah, he's at 12%.
Yeah, that's what I love about these weeks is that everything's so spread out up top. You got so many great guys with good reasons to play them that you can differentiate elsewhere, down your lineup in some of the lower price ranges. You don't have to have the low-owned guy up top. You can do that down lower in your lineups. And Jason Day is a guy at $9,100 I think is a pretty solid play. I may even play him in cash just because that price is a little bit low for him, especially at this course.
Man, it kind of peaked at the 8,000 range, and a couple of the guys I like are going to be so high owned. Oh, anyway,
Ducky, Adam Scott.
Yep, exactly.
You guys are very high owned.
Yeah, I would say out of this batch, I'm going to agree with you on Jason Day is probably the one I like the most. You actually talked me into adding Ricky to my pool. I didn't have him there, but it's because I really don't know him as a player. So you describing how he's a West Coast guy and the putting and everything. So I threw him in my pool, and he's only 9% owned.
That's awesome. If he's that low owned, man, I might go a little heavier on Ricky. I mean, he just has no weaknesses to his game. He's a lot like Rosen that way. I mean, certain guys, you go, all right, if they get the ball in the fairway, their approach game's awesome and they make some putts. But Ricky generally drives it pretty well. His approach game's always good. He's fantastic around the greens. He's a phenomenal putter. It's just there are no weaknesses to him. The only thing you can say is that he has a propensity to make big numbers. I just think on a course like this, everybody's got that possibility. As tough as it is and as penal as the rough is. And I'd like to think that now that he's in his 30s, he's a little more seasoned. He's played a lot of majors. Hopefully he's ready to make that jump and not let the bogeys bother him, not make those stupid risks that lead to the double bogeys that he makes quite often. I like him. I think he's got a lot of reasons to play well this week, that he should play well this week. And Jason Day are definitely guys that I love in that 9K range. And then Rose is a tournament play for sure.
Chris, anybody in this range you want to add to your lineup?
No, I mean, I don't really have a ton of input on it, so I'm here for the ride, guys. I'm listening to you guys and going through it. So,
yeah, I didn't get to talk to you during the intro either, but congratulations on your second place finish in the listener league last week.
Yeah, hey, it was. It couldn't have been closer, could it?
No, it literally could not have been closer without it being tied. It was a half-point victory.
Well, I don't know. Not even that it came down to a birdie putt or chip on the 18th to not only get the points but also get the second place finish to get the points for the tie.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Shout out to Webb for birdieing his last two holes to get me the victory there.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was fun. The only guy I'll mention too is who doesn't have great form coming in, but he's played awesome in majors recently, is Frankie Molinari. He's at 9K even. The course in theory should set up really well for him. He's a shorter hitter, hits a ton of fairways, hits a ton of greens. He's not great around the greens, but he's putted great in majors. So I don't know. I think Frankie, if he's looking low owned, if he's single digits, it'd be hard not to jump on him. And I think he almost acts as a pivot off of right below him, Fleetwood, Matsuyama, Scott at 8.6. Those are all guys I expect to be pretty high owned when it comes down.
He's projected at just under 7%.
Yeah, that's a risk I'd be willing to take.
Yeah, so now moving into the 8,000 range, this seems to be where everybody's playing. All these players have pretty high ownership. And we talked about briefly there, but yeah, I was really high on Adam Scott and Hideki first pass at it, but we're talking both of them at 18% ownership.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, their games line up so well for this event. They're both striking the ball so well coming in. I feel like Hideki's just been like one round where he can hold it together away from winning pretty much all year. I mean, he's been phenomenal as far as his consistency. It's just the one round that holds him back, and it's tough to see him having putting 4 rounds together at this course if he hasn't been able to do it at some of the lesser events. But at the same time, I mean, you can almost bank on him finishing top 20. That's really hard to ignore when you look at the value you're getting for 8.8. So yeah, it's hard to talk myself off of him. What are you seeing for Tommy Fleetwood?
For ownership? 14.
Okay. So Fleetwood, Matsuyama, Adam Scott's got to be in that 16 to 18 range too. Those guys are really soaking up a lot of ownership in this 8K range. Where's the Cooch?
16.
Yeah. I mean, those four guys are going to be so high. Oh, there you go. Here comes danger.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Pick your spots, huh?
All right, it's not bad. All right, I just parked. I didn't want to podcast and drive. I've tried that before. It's not very safe.
No, sounds like there's a typewriter in the background or something.
Well, it's just my headset on my phone, and I'm sitting in the truck. So hey, I'm about to go outside, so I'm gonna mute it again. I just want to make sure it worked. So, right now, I'm looking at kind of stars and scrubs is where I'm at here, man. I just like too many of these guys from the high eights up to the to the leaders. Right? So we're gonna have to get deep.
I think if you really wanted to create a unique lineup, because there are so many guys that are going to be so highly owned in the 8K range, there might be a couple in the 7K range too, with Webb Simpson probably being the top guy. You could really set a unique lineup by taking two studs, maybe one guy. I'm not sure where this would leave you for salary, but two studs, one guy maybe in the lower 8K, like Paul Casey, could be a good pivot, and then going down to the 7K for your last 2 out of 3 guys, and maybe finding one scrub down there sub 7K. That could be a really unique, really tasty lineup right there.
The one that I set up just for shits and giggles to start was Tiger, Fowler, Day, Graham McDowell, Jim Furyk, and Cody Gribble.
Oh my God!
I just had to hold the lineup. I just like to put a lineup in there just for funsies.
Oof. My skin's crawling right now.
I like the first 3.
Yeah, it gets ugly if you go all studs up top.
So I wasn't going to play.
Yeah, basically, if you take those 3 guys over 9K, the rest of your guys have to be like 73 or 74 and below. It's pretty ugly.
Yeah.
And there are some values down there, which we'll talk about, but it gets ugly if you go 3 studs.
I wasn't going to play him, but then I saw the ownership. Phil is at 5%.
Oh, man. Oh, Philly Mick. That could be tough to pass up. Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, at least one tournament lineup or something with him.
I mean, he's finished top 2 at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am 3 of the last 4 years. Like, the guy obviously loves playing this golf course. He tends to make a ton of birdies. So we've talked about this plenty of times on the pod, but even if he doesn't finish top 20, the guy makes enough birdies where if he makes the cut, he's going to score for you. He's going to end up being probably in the top 20 in DraftKings points, and that's what you're looking for. Granted, it's a week where, your points for your finish are probably going to factor in more than most because the scores are going to be high, but he's still a guy that he's going to make so many birdies that he can offset the fact that he might finish, 25th to 40th and still give you plenty of value for 8.2, especially at 5% ownership. I mean, the guy's obviously got upside to win. He said he's got 2 drivers in the bag now. He's hitting these, he calls them cute little cuts out there with his shorter driver. And then he's got the one that he pulls out on longer par 4s and par 5s to hit bombs with. So I like that strategy for him. I don't know. I'm talking myself into Phil, and it's making me a little queasy.
Just limit him. You just have to limit it.
I'm not good at that, though. If I want to take a stand on somebody, I usually kind of load up on them in case they do pop. You can really have a profitable week. But I love Paul Casey down there in the bottom of the 8K range at 8.3. I think so many guys are going to be playing those 4 guys we mentioned before that are going to be extremely highly owned, and you know that. I don't think any of those 4 guys have any higher probability to win than Paul Casey does. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see Casey on the leaderboard come Sunday. His long-term ball striking numbers are great. He's good around the greens. He putts well on POA. He's finished 8th and 2nd here the last 2 years, granted on different course conditions, but the greens aren't going to be that much different. So I don't know. I think Casey's a guy that I like a lot in that 8,000 range. And the fact that he's even $200-300 cheaper than Kuchar and Scott and $500-600 cheaper than, Matsuyama and Fleetwood, that makes him a really intriguing play to me.
Yeah, I agree. I was looking at him too at the bottom of the 8K range there.
What's he looking for his ownership?
He's actually at 16%.
Oh, he's at 16 too? Okay.